In the last section, we started putting together a little bit of boilerplate for our new animation application. We'll now continue by creating a screens directory and making a home.dart file inside there. So inside of my src folder, I'll make a new folder called screens, and then inside of screens, I'll make a new file of home.dart. And then inside of here, we'll put down our typical import package, Flutter, material.dart statement. And then inside of here, I'm going to make a class home. And you might be expecting this thing to extend a stateless widget. Instead, we're going to kind of do things a little bit crazy. And I'm going to make this a stateful widget instead. And then as you recall, to make a stateful widget right underneath our initial class right here, we have to make a home state class that is going to serve as the actual class that holds the state inside of this overall home widget. So this is going to be extending state of home. And then we'll just leave it right there for a second, because I want to first have a quick discussion on why we are making a stateful widget at all. Okay, so here's a quick diagram. Not exactly of the application we're going to build, but I want you to imagine for just a second that this is what we are making. So at this point in the course, we've said several times, oh yeah, for managing data or state inside of our application, we're going to create a block, and that block is going to be responsible for holding all of our data. But we just made a stateful widget. So why is that the case? Well, here's the thing. The block that we are going to make for most applications is really concerned with holding application level state. So some description of maybe the different tweets that we've loaded up, or the values in some form, or maybe a list of images that we need to display on the screen. It's all about data that is relevant to our entire application. But what you and I are building right now, like a simple animation right here, this animation is going to have some data tied to it, or specifically kind of these instances of animation controller, and tween, that are going to contain data that is not relevant to any other part of our application. Chances are that any other part of our application doesn't really care about whether this cat is like halfway up out of the box, like right there, or all the way out. Chances are no other part of our application really cares about that. So when we put together animations, even if we're using a block pattern or some other type of state management pattern inside of our application, we'll typically store all the data related to this animation inside of a stateful widget that is housing the actual animation process. So in this diagram right here, I reflected that as being kind of like a child of the home. For you and me, we are going to make the home widget a stateful widget. I just kind of arbitrarily changed the diagram right here to make it kind of clear that, hey, some animation that exists right here, chances are the login screen doesn't care about the state of that cat. So that's the entire idea here. So with that in mind, we do want our home class right here to be a stateful widget. So inside this thing, I am going to go through the process of making a typical stateful widget. So I'm going to add a create state method. Anytime someone calls this thing, we're going to return a new instance of home state, like so. And I'm also going to annotate the return type of that function as well, just for fun. Then inside of the home state method, we're going to make sure that we define a build, or excuse me, the home state class. We're going to define a build method that's going to return something of type widget, like so. And let's not forget that context argument as well. Okay, so that's good for right here. Now that we've got a better idea of why we're making a stateful widget, again, it's because chances are nothing else inside of our application probably cares about the state of our animation. Let's take a pause here. When we come in the next section, we're going to start talking about how we create some of these different classes inside of our new home state. So quick break, and I'll see you in just a minute.